I used to think quiet was a virtue you chose, like making the bed or flossing. My wife turned quiet into a policy. No phone for 48 hours, she said, pressing her forehead to mine the way couples do in engagement photos. It's a true silent retreat. No texting, no calls. If you love me, let me be offline. I do love her. Loved. It's messy in the present tense. I'm Mark, 35. I do IT for a public school district outside Raleigh, half network janitor, half therapist for teachers who swear the printer hates them personally. I'm the guy who labels HDMI cables because I believe in future me. My wife was, Elena, 32, marketing manager for a yoga apparel brand. She came with phrases like high vibration and self-boundaries and a spice drawer arranged by color. I came with a toolbox and a habit of saying, we'll figure it out, even when I wasn't sure. We met in a line at a food truck when her card wouldn't tap and mine did. First dates were farmers markets and a pottery class where I made a mug shaped like a question mark and she made something you'd actually drink from. We got married in a city park with rented folding chairs that looked nicer in photos than in person. For our first Christmas, I stuck an AirTag on the keychain because she loses keys the way I lose receipts. We share an Apple family plan because I'm cheap and I like managing subscriptions in one place. None of that felt like future evidence when I set it up. It felt like love dressed as logistics. Elena found yoga after the pandemic chewed her edges. Started as breathwork on YouTube, became classes, then teacher training weekends, then an entire friend group named Variations of Sage and Willow. She started going to a gym called Praxis 3 blocks from our apartment. It's the kind of place with polished concrete and chalkboard quotes about discipline. Her trainer there, coach, she corrected, was a guy named Cal, mid-30s, former college track. The kind of man who says your name with a sprint coach's rhythm. She came home after their sessions glowing in a way I told myself was endorphins and not a problem I didn't want. Back in March, he said, I need a reset. Total quiet, no screens. There's a retreat up in the mountains. It's real silence. We leave phones in a lockbox. She said it like a detox, like she was protecting us from her own burnout. If something explodes, she added, call the lodge number. They take messages twice a day. She put the number on a sticky note and stuck it to the fridge next to our pizza place magnet like they were equal sources of comfort. She added a silent retreat, soul rest calendar block to our shared Google Calendar, all caps, all weekend, with a brown leaf emoji next to it. I clicked it out a habit site link, lodge address, the line, please honor my boundaries. She invited me as optional. I left the invite alone because I thought that was what a good husband did. She left Friday at 3 p.m. in athleisure that looked expensive and a duffel that looked like it had a great Instagram. She kissed me long and said, no phone equals love. It was playful. It felt like pressure anyway. I watched from the window until she turned the corner, the way you do when the person you love becomes a car on the street for a while. I didn't plan to look at anything. That matters. The first ping wasn't me snooping. It was an alert I set up months ago after someone broke into our neighbor's car and stole his kid's backpack. When any of our AirTags get separated from our phones for too long, Find My nags me like a smoke alarm that speaks politely. Elena's keys were left behind, my phone said, a half hour after she left. That made sense. She took her tote, not her keys. Then, an hour later, Elena's keys are moving with you. Not me, with you. The AirTag on the keychain, her keychain, was on the move. I opened Find My and saw a blue dot creeping west on the map, not up toward the mountains, but along 440 to a belt of motels by the interstate. Sheep names, numbers in the title. Vacancy signs you can almost hear buzz. I told myself there could be a shuttle. I told myself Soul Rest might stage at a parking lot. I told myself a lot of unnecessary kindness while a dot slid into the lot of a motor inn with a photo on Apple Maps of a place with floral bedspreads and outside doors. The AirTag settled there. The address wasn't the lodge on the sticky note. It was 20 minutes from our apartment. I stared at my own reflection in the dark screen like it knew a version of me that didn't need proof. Then I did what guys like me do, I rationalized. Retreats sometimes book a night near the city before heading out. Maybe the van leaves at dawn. Maybe their lockbox collects phones at the motel. The truth is a fragile thing you can keep alive for a while if you hold your breath and don't touch it. I ordered Chinese. I opened a troubleshooting ticket about a Chromebook cart at a middle school because I needed to fix something. I folded laundry with care that felt like prayer. Around 10:40 p.m., my phone buzzed again, not from Find My, but from email. Your Uber trip is complete. Subject line, confetti emoji. It's the email format I get when I take an Uber on my own account for work, or when Elena uses the family profile and forgets to toggle to hers. My stomach went cold in a way that had nothing to do with egg rolls. I opened the email. Thanks for riding, Mark, from our apartment to the motel by the interstate. Friday, 30:28 p.m., the same time she left for the mountains. 23.117 plus tip. The map was a polite blue line that felt like a line drawn around my life. She'd used my profile and my card. It would be funny if it weren't poisonous cheating and still not paying for the ride. I searched my inbox for Uber. 2 more emails. A second Uber around 6:12 a.m. from the motel to Praxis Gym. And then, at 7:09, a short hop from Praxis to a coffee shop nearby. Your Uber One saved you $3.15. I hate how the savings copy kept its cheer. The AirTag mat matched that story like it had been written by a petty god. The dot slept at the motel, moved at dawn to Praxis Cal's gym, then to a coffee shop, then back to the motel around 9:30 a.m. I watched the blue dot land like a plain tail, numbered with a sick feeling I didn't want to claim yet. I called the lodge number on the sticky note. A woman with a voice like warm oatmeal said, "Soul Rest, leave a message for your retreat and we'll post it on the board." No directory, no person, just a voicemail. I left my name and said, "Tell Elena I love her and I'm proud of her for doing the hard work." I hung up before I said something that made the woman behind the voice tilt her head. Around noon, I clicked the calendar again and looked at the silent retreat soul rest entry. There was a link to an itinerary, sunrise meditation, mindful meals, afternoon walking contemplation. It was a Google Doc. The URL wasn't soul rest domain. It was a generic docs link owned by a Gmail with Elena's name and a number at the end, the address she uses for shopping accounts and spam newsletters. The doc template looked like the brand deck she built for her job, not like a retreat's PDF. Same typeface, same line hearts. I looked at the location field for the event and saw it had been edited yesterday, not Soul Rest Lodge, a street address one block from Praxis, a parking garage. She changed it seconds after she added "no phone equals love" to the description. If you've ever fallen through a rotten step you trusted, you know the feeling. First your stomach drops, then your brain recovers and says, "Gather facts." My hands started doing the thing they do when I fix what's broken. Screen record, save copies, export, make a folder. Name it something boring because you might need to say its name out loud in a room later. I screen recorded the Find My animation, the Dot's overnight nap at the motel, the morning commute to Praxis. I saved the Uber receipts as PDFs. I took photos of the calendar entry with the edited yesterday timestamp. I put all of it in a folder called April. I made a subfolder called Elena. Then I stared at what I'd just done and felt like I was setting a trap in my own kitchen. Around 3, Find My did a polite ding. The AirTag left the motel. The Dot rolled south on 401 to a strip mall with a tan facade that could be anywhere in America. The Dot landed. When I zoomed in, the map labels populated slowly, like a courtroom building a case. Praxis Fitness, Minerva Nails, Bluebird Motor Inn behind the strip. I watched it stay put for 3 hours at the gym. I watched it buzz back to the motel around 6. My head wrote plot lines the way a sane person makes shopping lists. I told no one. That decision still confuses me. I could have called my friend Nate, the kind of person who would bring a folding chair and sit with me on a sidewalk if I needed to watch a door. I could have called Elena's sister and asked a question that made December come in April. Instead, I moved through the apartment like a ghost who respected shoes on the rug. At 8 p.m., I did something I'd never done in my marriage. I drove to a motel parking lot and parked under a camera on purpose. We have a Model 3 used, not fancy. I bought it because my commute is 100 little stops and I like quiet and I like the way it feels like an appliance that happens to be a car. Tesla's Sentry mode records when people walk near the car. I used it once to catch a raccoon letting itself out of our trash bin like a tiny thief. Now I turned it on and aimed the car at a hallway of doors. It felt like the wrong movie. I sat in the dark pretending to scroll, watching the walkway. Around 9, I saw her. It wasn't a soap opera moment, no thunderclap. Elena in a hoodie and yoga pants and a cap, head down, walking with a man at her shoulder. Tall, trim. The kind of walk you get when you've been told your whole life you were fast. Cal. I knew it even with half a face. He did the coach lean down to listen, the hand on her low back that had no business being that familiar on that hallway. Sentry mode saved the clips automatically in a folder with the date stamped like a sadness label. They disappeared into my cloud like facts do, quiet and patient. They stopped at a door 2 down from my line of sight. He looked both ways, the way a person looks when they know better. He kissed her quickly, the kind of peck you give when you tell yourself it doesn't count. Then he walked away, down the stairs to the lot, to a gray SUV I had seen in the Praxis lot a dozen times when I picked Elena up because she said her legs felt jello after lifts. My hands didn't shake, my chest did. I stayed long enough to watch the staircase a second time. He didn't come back. I could have gone home then. I didn't. I waited until the hallway went quiet. Then I started the car and drove around back where the Bluebird Motor Inn sign flickered like it had opinions. I took photos of the motel sign and the room number and my dashboard clock because my brain likes when numbers line up with feelings. It gives the feelings a place to sit. The next morning, the AirTag did the same dance. Motel to Praxis, Praxis to coffee, coffee to motel, repeat. If this were a training plan, it would be called consistency. I recorded it like a man making a stop motion of his own life falling apart in predictable increments. I called Soul Rest again. Left another message because there is a version of this story where I'm wrong and I wanted to have behaved like a person who believed in that version. Tell her Daisy had her pills, I said, because our dog's meds are the most normal thing in our life. Tell her I love her. I listened to my own voice through the speaker and wondered if the woman in the office posted my note on a corkboard next to a recipe for lentil stew. On Sunday, the Uber email came before the AirTag moved, motel to our apartment. 9:46 a.m. Thanks for riding, Mark. My phone dinged with a second thing, Sentry mode event saved. I hadn't parked anywhere. I'd left the car overnight on our street. Elena walked in 15 minutes later with skin that smelled like eucalyptus and hotel soap and the look of someone who has practiced a story in the car. She put her tote down gently like it might break. She kissed me soft. "How are you?" she asked, like the answer would be graded. "How was the quiet?" I said. "It was everything," she said, palms together under her chin for a breath, a move she used to punctuate big feelings. "I haven't felt this clear in months. I cried at a tree," she added, laughing so I would relax. I looked at her face, the kind of fresh that looks both earned and unfair, and felt the sharpest version of love and anger fight each other like cats under a porch. I didn't ask how was Praxis. I didn't ask what was the motel breakfast like. I asked, did they let you keep your phone in your room, because I wanted to begin somewhere small that could still be true. No, she said. Too fast. Then, like a woman who's good at story, I mean, some people did for emergencies, but I handed mine over. I needed the discipline. I nodded. I left you 2 messages with the lodge number, I said. They read them at dinner, she said. Thank you. I cried again. She smiled. It was gorgeous. I hated it a little, which was new for me. She went to shower. I stood at the sink and washed a mug that didn't need washing the way people in commercials wash lettuce. I put the mug on a towel, and everything in my body told me to say nothing until I had everything. That voice saved me from being cruel. It also kept me in a house with a lie for another day. I pulled the Sentry clip on my phone and watched it twice in the bathroom with the fan on like a man hiding a habit. I recorded the AirTag map screen as it showed a week's history because Apple thinks families want to see where their keys go, and now I was using a feature for court. I set up my Uber to forward trip receipts to my work email too, so duplicate copies would exist where my heart didn't. I exported the calendar event with all its edits. I printed them because paper makes things real in a way even video doesn't. Monday, Elena went to work like normal. Praxis posted a boomerang of Cal clapping his hands in front of a class with the caption, "Chase it." I chased it. First stop, Solrest's actual site, not the Google Doc. Their events page had 3 retreats listed, none for last weekend. I called the main number again and asked for the director. A patient voice told me they host silent retreats the first weekend of each month, not the second. Did your loved one attend through another organization, she asked? Sometimes meetup groups rent a room and call it silence. She attended through my credit card, I said, as she made the kind of sound that makes space for men to decide who they want to be next. Second stop, Praxis. I didn't walk inside. I sat in the parking lot and watched the door. I saw Cal leave at 11:40 to get a smoothie. I saw him return at 11:53. His SUV had a parking permit stuck to the dash with his plate number printed on it. I took a photo from my car like the world had turned me into someone who takes photos from cars. I do not recommend it. It tastes like pennies. Third stop, the mail. I went to the mail center where our P.O. box lives and asked if any packages had been held over the weekend. The clerk, who knows me as the guy who picks up ink cartridges and occasionally accidentally signs for other people's novelty t-shirts, handed me 2 envelopes from Amazon marked Registry Gift, both addressed to Elena. I signed mechanically, and then, because I was in a mood where truth mattered even if it made me someone's story at dinner, I said, "We didn't have a wedding, we didn't even have an event. Can you hold future packages and mark return to sender if they're charity?" He looked at me the way strangers look when they see a bruise they aren't allowed to touch. "You can put a whole note on the box online," he said. "I'll flag it for the manager." It was easy. It made me mad. How easy it is to stop something once you know. I kept my head down at work. I reimagined 3 Chromebooks and replaced a projector bulb and answered a ticket about a broken keyboard that turned out to be a cat. I still had a job. That mattered. Tuesday night, I printed everything and put it in a blue folder from our wedding paperwork drawer because symbolism likes to show up when you don't invite it. I made a list on the first page because I am an inventory guy when scared. Uber trips. Friday, 30:28 p.m. Apartment to Bluebird Motor Inn. Saturday, 6,012 a.m. Motel to Praxis. Saturday, 7:09 a.m. Praxis to Bean Barn Coffee. Saturday, 9,034 a.m. Bean Barn to Motel. Sunday, 9,046 a.m. Motel to apartment. AirTag history. Find my logs matching above. Calendar event created Wednesday, 9,003 p.m. Location edited Thursday, 2,041 p.m. Sentry clip with Cal walking her to motel door Friday, 9,002 p.m. Solrest, no event listed for second weekend. Phone call log 1 and 2. I slid the folder shut and carried it like it was heavier than paper. There's no elegant way to say I showed my wife's lie to her parents, but that's what I did on Wednesday, not out of a desire to humiliate her. Out of a desire to keep witnesses who love us from believing a softer edit later that makes me the villain for noticing. Her mom is a nurse who once brought casseroles to our place for a week when I sprained my ankle. Her dad lives with a permanent squint that makes him look like he's assessing a played-out joke. They came over at 6. I said, "I need you to see something, and I need you not to explain it away." I expected yelling. I got silence. The kind that isn't a retreat, the kind that wraps around a room like a responsible blanket. They watched the Sentry clip without commentary. Her mom's hand found her dad's forearm and held it like she used to hold Elena's when she was little and near a road. When the AirTag animation ended, her dad said the softest, "Oh, kid," to no one. "Don't confront her alone," her mom said. "You have the right to be safe in the truth." It was the best sentence anyone had given me all week. I didn't want a confrontation. I wanted gravity. The kind that makes the right thing happen because the weight is higher than any person's appetite for narrative. I called Praxis and asked for the owner. He knew me by voice. We chatted at a holiday thing where they gave out protein bar samples and handshakes. "Hey, Mark," he said. "What's up?" "I need to meet," I said, "off the floor, with HR, if you have it. It's about a boundary with a client. It's about your coach Cal." I don't like my voice when I listen to a recording of it. This time, I liked it. It sounded like a man who had been polite and now had facts. We met Thursday at 10 a.m. in his office that smelled like rubber and peppermint oil. He sat with a clipboard like a man who'd been taught where lawsuits come from. We take boundaries seriously, he said before I handed him the folder. Tell me what you've got. I told him clean. No adjectives. He looked at the Sentry clip like it might reach off the screen and slap him. He looked at the Uber receipts and the calendar edits and the printout from Soul Rest's site. He said, we are not a church, but we do have rules. Don't fire him for me, I said. Fire him because you tell your client you care about safety and this isn't safe. He nodded once like he'd been waiting for permission to do something decent. We'll handle it, he said. You didn't hear that from me. He slid the folder back like it was warm. I left and sat in my car and shook for the first time since Friday. Not because I was sad, because I had the feeling that whatever this is when it's over, I get to keep the part of me that knows how to hold paper and not throw it. Elena texted at lunch, how's your day? It used to be a cute mid-shift ping. Now it felt like a question a director asks an actor in the wrong scene. I replied, I need to talk tonight. Please be home by 6. She sent a heart. I didn't like where it landed. 6 o'clock came. She was on time. She had flowers, which felt like a preemptive apology disguised as a table setting. I didn't take them. I pointed at the couch. She sat with the posture of someone about to be interviewed but determined to nail it anyway. I know, I said before she started. I know about the motel. I know about the Uber. I know about the calendar edit. I know about Cal. I know you used my account and called it retreat. I know now that quiet was just what you asked me to be while you were loud somewhere else. She didn't cry. She did something worse. She switched to the voice she uses on clients when they're about to pull a campaign. Calm, empathic, convincing. Okay, she said. You're hurt. You've been watching data instead of asking me for facts. You know I've been struggling. You know Cal has been helping me. Yes, I booked a motel because I couldn't afford the lodge. I didn't want to tell you because I knew you'd call it cheap. I used your Uber because mine was canceled after that credit card fraud. I edited the calendar because the pickup changed. None of this is a lie. It's a version, and it kept me from screaming. You kissed him, I said, not because the kiss was the worst part, but because the truth sometimes needs a noun. She stared at a spot behind me the way people who meditate stare at a thought they don't want to pick up. It was a boundary slip, she said. He's a coach. He's been there for me. I felt seen. It was wrong. It won't happen again. She took my hand. My hand didn't move. Hers was so warm. I hated how warm it was. You wrote no phone equals love under a fake retreat, I said, because there are sentences you can't let slide past without trying to stop them. She closed her eyes, opened them, decided to try a different scene. Do you want to be right, she asked, or do you want to be married? I want to not be a prop, I said. I want my yes to be to the same event you're attending. She breathed like a person about to dive. Okay, she said, tell me what you need. Tomorrow, I said, we're going to your parents' house at 7. You are going to say out loud what happened. We're going to Praxis at noon. You are going to resign your membership. You are going to send Cal a text in front of me that says, I crossed a boundary with my coach. It will not happen again. Do not contact me outside of gym business. My husband is included on all communications. And then we are going to figure out us with a therapist who isn't your ex or your friend's friend or anyone whose number already lives in your phone. And you're going to stop using my accounts. She stared at me like I'd rerouted a river in front of her. You're humiliating me, she said. I'm anchoring the truth, I said. She stood. She walked to the sink and put the flowers gently in water and arranged them with a care that would have made me proud last year. Okay, she said again, because it's a word you can use when you agree and also when you need time to build a different plan. That night I slept on the couch because a bed is an oath and my body didn't feel like a person who could keep one. Daisy slept on the floor by my hand because dogs know when to take your side without being told who the enemy is. In the morning, Praxis posted a statement on their Instagram that used the words values and boundaries and terminated. Cal's face disappeared from their coach's page between my first coffee and my second. Someone had made a decision quickly and with a spine. I felt something like relief that didn't taste like revenge. At 11:17 a.m., an email hit my work inbox from Uber. Unusual activity detected family profile. I opened it and saw rides booked from our address to the Bluebird Motor Inn scheduled for that afternoon, then from the motel to Praxis, then back again on Elena's device under my account. She'd set them up last week as repeats. She hadn't canceled them. I sat in my office with the printer that hates Miss Taylor and looked at the email until it blurred. Then I clicked cancel trip, cancel trip, cancel trip, and added a family profile password that only I know. I changed every password that touched money. I turned off purchase sharing. I should have done all that years ago. Love without two-factor authentication is a trust fall onto a tile floor. At 12:03 p.m., Elena texted, I'm at Praxis. Owner wants to talk to both of us. Can you come? The fact that she asked and didn't tell me to trust her felt like a tiny adjustment toward the Earth's axis. I went. I brought the blue folder. I didn't bring Rage. That's the thing about Rage, it loves a crowd. I needed rooms with locks and people who write things down. The owner met us with a woman from HR who looked like she'd written apology emails for a living. They treated Elena like a client, not a defendant, which was kind and also devastating. Elena said the words I asked her to say, not fluently, not without a passive voice creeping in, But she said them. I told my husband I was at a retreat. I was at a motel near the gym. I saw my coach outside of sessions. I crossed a boundary. The HR woman nodded like a person checking off boxes on a list no one wants to make. We have terminated Coach Cal effective this morning, she said. We're refunding your package. We're also flagging your account so no one on staff sees it for 12 months. That's for you. It's also for us. We appreciate you bringing it to us. We are sorry. Elena cried then. It was the kind of crying people who had practiced control. Hate ugly hiccuping. I put a hand near her shoulder, not on it. Sometimes love is learning where not to put your hands. We left. We sat in the car with the quiet air conditioning that makes Teslas feel like spaceships. She reached for my hand. I let her have it for a second because grief is a thing you hold for people doing the hurt and for people doing the hurting. Then I told her I was sending the blue folder to her parents and to HR at her job because Cal wasn't the only professional with a line he tripped over. Her brand has rules about employee conduct and influencer relations. She works with him on campaigns. If I kept it in-house, it stays my burden. If I share it, it becomes a thing with a case number. She didn't call me names. She did something I didn't expect. She nodded. Okay, she said, but this time it sounded like yes, not a stall. That night we ate pasta and didn't talk about sauce. I slept in the bed because the couch had started to feel like penance, and I am not interested in religion that hurts without making anything better. At 2017 a.m., I woke to her phone lighting up. Not a call. A Google Calendar reminder, silent retreat, soul rest, repeat next month. She had set it to recur. I stared at the glowing screen until it dimmed and thought of how easy it is to make a lie repeat if you put it in the right format. Then I deleted the event from our shared calendar and went back to sleep, tired in the way you get after you've carried a door off its hinges and now it's leaning in the garage waiting for whatever comes next. The next morning, I woke up with the kind of clarity that feels less like dawn and more like a verdict. Not angry, not dramatic, just solid. I made coffee, fed Daisy, and opened my laptop like it was a work order labeled my life. First, I shut the doors I'd left open, family sharing offer purchases, new Apple ID password, and a recovery key she doesn't know. Two-factor on everything with backup codes printed and taped inside the safe we keep passports in. Uber family profile locked behind a pin, only I know. Calendar permissions changed so only I can add events to the shared calendar, and edits leave my email a paper trail. I turned off HomeKit invites she'd sent to people I couldn't name and pruned trusted devices to the ones I'd actually seen with my own eyes. Love without audit is a wish. It can still be love, it's not a plan. Then I emailed HR at her company. I didn't write like a husband. I wrote like a vendor ops guy who's seen how messes get clean when the nouns are in order. I attached the Uber receipts, the AirTag map exports, the calendar version history, the Sentry clip, and a short timeline. I didn't tell them what to do. I told them what happened, that their employee's silent retreat was a motel next to a vendor's gym, that a trainer under contract with their brand crossed a client boundary, that she collaborates with him on campaigns. I ended with one sentence. I'm sending this because sunlight is kinder than rumor, and policies exist to keep people from hurting each other at work. Her boss responded in under 20 minutes. Receive. Thank you for the documentation. We are placing Elena on administrative leave pending review. Please do not discuss this matter on social media. The last line made me smile without humor. The idea that I would go to Instagram for justice felt like someone recommending aromatherapy for a broken arm. At noon, Elena came home like a woman who'd rehearsed calm. She set her phone on the counter screen down and started making tea with this exaggerated gentleness that made me want to scream. I didn't. I told her HR had her, that I sent facts, that she'd have to talk to them. She leaned on the counter, eyes closed. When she opened them, she said, "You wet nuclear," in a voice that was equal parts hurt and admiration, like she was watching a bridge collapse from a safe distance and couldn't help respecting the engineering. I went specific, I said. Nuclear is blasting a reel. I chose a room with a door and someone taking notes. She nodded once, like she just accepted that there were games I could play too. They called, she said. Leave. Meeting at 4 with HR and legal. I told them it wasn't what it looks like. What does it look like, I asked, because sometimes hearing it out loud is all the grace a moment needs. It looks like I lied, she said. It looks like I used your money. It looks like I let someone touch me who shouldn't have. It looks like I didn't respect my own marriage. It also looks like you plan to do it again, I said, and flicked my eyes at her phone where a calendar notification for the next month's silent retreat had popped at 2017 a.m. Repeats don't create themselves. She swallowed hard and looked away like the wall had something to say. I said it when I thought I needed a rhythm, she said. I didn't update the part where I stopped lying. I told her about Praxis terminating Cal. For a second, relief flashed across her face, then grief, then something that looked like rage and ran away before it found a seat. He doesn't deserve to be the only one to pay, she said. He's not, I said. You're in the room at 4. At 3, she stood in the doorway of my office and said, "Do you want me to say anything to make this easier?" Yes, I said. I want you to stop narrating us like a case study and just tell the truth. No altitude, no versioning, no holding space, just the nouns. She didn't argue. It didn't feel like surrender. It felt like the end of a long presentation where even the presenter can't stand her own deck anymore. Her HR call lasted an hour and 19 minutes. I know because I stared at the microwave clock the way you watch a scoreboard in a sport you've just learned to love. She came out with the kind of face people have when anesthesia wears off. They're reviewing, she said. They said it's about policy, not morality. Good, I said. Policy has better aim. That night, we sat on opposite ends of the couch watching a show we used to love and felt like strangers overhearing an old couple's inside jokes. After 2 episodes, she muted the sound and said, "Do you want to save this?" "I want to save myself," I said, and that was the first time I'd said something that sounded selfish and felt holy. We tried therapy anyway because I believe in giving rooms a chance to change us. I picked a therapist this time, a beige office, a woman with the voice of a high school librarian, walls that looked like they'd seen most of what a heart can do to itself. In the first session, the therapist had us do the thing I hate and respect most, say what you did without explaining why you did it. I told my husband I was going on a silent retreat, Elena said. I stayed at a motel near the gym. I used his account to book Ubers. I edited our shared calendar to hide where I was. I let my trainer cross a boundary. I crossed it too. Say what you did, the therapist said to me. I took screenshots, I said. I recorded a Sentry clip. I saved Uber receipts. I drove to a motel. I told her parents. I told her employer. I told the gym. I changed our passwords. I slept on the couch. The therapist nodded. Good, she said. Now try this sentence. I chose. Elena stared at the therapist like she'd been asked to disassemble herself and label the parts. I chose to lie, she said. The words came out small, like they were learning how to walk. I chose to enjoy attention and call it help. I chose to want something I wasn't allowed to have and then build a story where I was the victim of my own choice. I said, I chose paper over yelling. I chose rooms with doors. I chose to ask people who write things down to help me carry what I couldn't hold alone. The therapist gave a small smile that looked like professional pride and heartbreak in equal measures. If you keep choosing like that, she said to me, you will either save this marriage or save yourself. Both are acceptable outcomes. We did 3 sessions. In the second, Elena wanted to talk about how unloved she'd felt, how unseen, how the gym had become a place where no one called her too much. The therapist didn't let her use those words to pardon herself. Lonely is not a hall pass, she said softly. It's a signal to turn toward, not away. In the third, we tried practicals. Location sharing, a phone rule, transparency about money. Then a moment came like a drop on a drum. I'm not giving you my phone passcode, Elena said. That's not healthy. I'm not asking to be your warden, I said. I'm asking you to stop building rooms I can't enter when you're using my credit card to furnish them. We left with an appointment for a 4th session and a silence that felt like a chalk outline. On the drive home, she said, I don't think I can be who you need me to be, and then stared out the window as downtown rolled by like it hadn't done anything to us. Her job moved faster than therapy. HR called the next day. We're ending employment for violation of vendor interaction policy, the HR woman said, polite and exact. We will process severance as stipulated in your contract. Please return company property by Friday. We appreciate your contributions. Elena hung up, put her head on the table, and made a sound I had never heard from her. Not crying, not rage, something like the body yawning without the mouth. I thought they'd warn me first, she said. They did, I said, and pointed at the employee handbook she brought home her first week and never opened again. Praxis posted a follow-up statement that read like it had been distilled to avoid lawsuits and still say something true. We have reinforced our boundaries training and instituted additional oversight for client-coach interactions. Comments were off. DMs were not. Women started messaging me from throwaway accounts with a version of the same sentence. It wasn't just you. Cal had a type. The gym owner forwarded me 2 formal complaints that had come in that week from clients who'd felt encouraged to treat vulnerability like currency. Patterns are a comfort when you don't want to hate yourself for being the only one. I didn't answer the DMs. I sent the complaints to Sergeant Alvarez, who told me the difference between criminal and awful and advised me to keep the folder fat and my post non-existent. She also mailed me a brochure for a victims advocate group I didn't think I wanted until I went and realized the room was full of people whose lives had been turned into someone else's plot and who were learning to pull their names back out. Elena moved into her sister's guest room the following Sunday. We called it space, not separation, because language buys you gentler mornings. We split time with Daisy because dogs deserve consistency even when humans don't. I took the couch again that night out of habit, then went to bed because penance is only useful if it primes you for repair. I slept through till 6 and woke up to a quiet that didn't feel like a policy. It felt like rest. Her parents came by with a casserole and a card that said nothing except, "We love you both." Her dad helped me rehang the bedroom door that had been sticking all spring. Sometimes wood swells and you think the house is changing, he said. It's just the weather. It was a dad thing to say. It helped anyway. In late May, Elena asked to meet at the park. She brought coffee and wore a sweatshirt with the brand's logo that she hadn't had the guts to throw away yet. We sat on a bench and watched a kid in a cape sprint like he'd invented running. I'm interviewing, she said. 2 small agencies, a nonprofit. I'll probably make less. Maybe that's good. It doesn't matter what you make, I said. It matters what you spend. She winced and then nodded, accepting the joke and the lesson packed inside it. I'm in a 12-step program, she said. Not alcohol, not drugs. It's for people who can't stop performing themselves. I thought it was a cult. It turns out it's just people who got tired of their own voice. How is it? I asked and meant it. Humbling, she said. Annoying. I'm learning to sit in rooms where no one needs my narrative. I hate it. I think it's saving me. We didn't touch. We didn't make promises. We watched a dog steal a frisbee from another dog and negotiate peace like animals always do, quickly, without speeches. That week I met Cal once, at a coffee shop, against my better judgment, and because a part of me wanted to look at the man who had helped take a wrecking bar to my house and see if he had a human face or if he was just a set of choices wearing a man's suit. He came in looking smaller than he'd ever looked at Praxis. Hat, beard a little overgrown, the posture of a person who used to own rooms and now wishes rooms would let him be furniture. I don't know what you want me to say, he started. You could try sorry, I said. You could also try goodbye. Those are the two options. He nodded. To his microscopic credit, he didn't try to sell me a story. I'm sorry, he said. I thought I was helping. I liked being the hero. I've always liked that. It turns out hero is a costume that tears easy in the wash. That's a lot of I said. He looked at the table. Goodbye, he said, and left his coffee untouched. The gym owner texted me a week later to say Cal had moved to another city and that he'd sent a letter to the certifying body about boundary issues with documentation attached. I threw the text into the folder and closed it without reading it twice. Sometimes enough is enough, and other times enough is the exact right amount. In June, my lawyer drafted a separation agreement that was dull in the way the best documents are. She keeps her car, I keep mine. No spousal support either direction because the math doesn't ask for it. She pays me back for the Uber charges in a schedule that looks like an apology put into dollars. We divide furniture with less drama than two people who once argued about throw pillow textures have any right to pull off. Daisy stays with me during the week, and with her on weekends as long as Elena's building allows dogs. If not, we renegotiate like grown-ups. We met on a Tuesday in a conference room with cheap mints and signed the papers. Elena cried once quietly when the lawyer pushed the final page across and said, "Do you understand?" She said yes and meant more than the question was asking. When it was done, we hugged the way actors hug at a curtain call, grateful and grieving, not romantic, but real. We walked to our cars separately. I sat behind the wheel and let a sound out that I hope no one I love ever hears. I still go to the park on Saturday mornings. Sometimes I see couples stretching under trees and I feel that old itch of judgment that tastes like pennies. Then I remember there were months when I looked just as devoted in public and was dissolving in private, and I let them be. Daisy has a new ball and a fixation on geese that makes no sense to either of us. I started lifting at a different gym across town where no one knows my story, and the only man who says my name with a coach's cadence is the one in my head when I put the bar back on the rack and tell myself to breathe. Her parents still text me pictures of their garden like I'm their weather app. Her mom and I trade dog pictures because kindness doesn't have to pick a side. Elena and I send necessary messages only. Vet appointments, bills, Daisy's weird sneeze videos. Sometimes she slips and writes something that sounds like the voice we used to use when life was a friend. Sometimes I slip and answer in kind. We both catch ourselves and step back onto the path we chose. When people ask me what happened, I don't tell the long version unless they need it. I say, she told me she was somewhere she wasn't. I believed her. Then I believed the map, the receipts, and the video more. We ended it before we ended each other. If they press, I give them 3 questions like a spare key. Does the story want you quiet? Does the money move in a way you can't explain on paper? Does the proof live in rooms without doors? If yes, knock. I kept the blue folder for a while in the bottom drawer where the warranties live. A month ago, I scanned it to a drive and shredded the paper. Not because I wanted to forget, because the paper had done its job. It held the truth long enough for the truth to stand up without it. If you're sitting in a house that smells like eucalyptus and hotel soap, and you have a sticky note on your fridge that says for emergencies, this is me telling you that you're allowed to treat your heart like an emergency. You're allowed to check the calendar history. You're allowed to open Find My. You're allowed to print receipts. You're allowed to walk into rooms with doors and ask someone with a clipboard to help you carry what isn't fair to carry alone. You're allowed to want the boring kind of justice more than the satisfying kind of spectacle. You're allowed to be done without being cruel. What would you have done in my place? Would you have staged a confrontation in a motel hallway or driven home and built a folder? Would you have blasted his face online or walked into his boss's office with nouns and left adjectives at the door? Would you have stayed and rebuilt or signed and slept? Tell me in the comments. No speeches, just the truth you can live with. If this story kept you listening, hit like so. It finds the next person who thinks no phone equals love is a vow and not a red flag. Subscribe if you want more long, messy, painfully human stories where the twist isn't a plot device. It's an Apple family plan, a calendar edit, a blue folder, and a guy who learned that silence is only holy when it's honest.